You're now live, so says the machine. What's up to our sidekicks and henchmen out there in the Geek Nation? I'm Johnny Destructo, and you're listening to / looking at the Cult Pop Spoiler Alert podcast, our weekly comic book discussion show where we talk about that week's books. You may or may not be aware there are no books this week. Diamond Distribution has ceased to send out to the local shops their books, and a lot of the publishers have stopped even printing their digital books for the time being because of the COVID virus. So we thought it would be fun to get together and talk about something that we've been wanting to do for a very long time, and we're just now getting to it. TKO Presents is a new publisher / distributor, and they have been working on and putting out 2 seasons of books so far. And the difference between the comics that you usually get at your comic shop and the TKO Presents publishing line is that they are doing what they're calling bingeable. See, people can see my air quotes now. Normally it's just vocal. It's bingeable releases. So basically what you can do is Noel, you'll see has an issue of Fearsome Dr. Fang.
I didn't know you guys were there.
So you hold up your issue.
Oh yeah, there.
Yeah. Do you also have one of the trades? So you can either buy the single issues in one box, or you can get the trade paperback on the same day, or you can get their digital release. They're all released on the exact same day, and it's really just a matter of your reading preference. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. They sent us #1 issues for all of their releases, so we decided to do an all TKO Presents episode. As I said before, I'm Johnny Destructo. With me this week is Brian Lieb. Wave to the people. No, don't say anything. Just wave. You can say something.
Hey!
Hey!
Hi, guys.
Len Cruz Webb, a.k.a. the Bat Tribble.
What's up? Highlight your boy.
And Noel Bartocci, Mr. Bartocci on Twitter.
Hi.
Hi, guys. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
It's funny. I say thanks for joining me as if you've just joined me and you aren't always in my heart forever.
Also, we say, thanks for joining me. Meanwhile, we've been figuring out everything for the last hour and a half.
Yes. Yeah. A lot of work has gone into this very shoddy production.
We've done 2 shows.
Look at this logo here. It's so hard to figure out where my finger is going.
Everything's backwards.
Kind of. It's the logo.
Yeah, and there's a little scroll at the bottom. We've got our names in there. This is high quality shit.
I think someone has joined us, and that someone I think is Carl Carls.
Carls.
Hey, Carl.
Hey, Carl. What's up, dog?
Carls, for anyone who listens to the show but doesn't know, is in Tasmania.
Down in Tasmania.
That doesn't get old.
I'm sure he loves it every time we do it.
He has no choice.
I'm trying to bring up I don't know how to find us on the Facebook app. I'm trying to watch us live to make sure everything's
Oh, wait, no. I was wrong. It's not Carl Carls.
Who is it?
Oh, shit. Who is it?
Eric Carlson.
Oh, Kyre. Longtime friend of me. I was going to say friend of the show. He's not a friend of the show. He's a friend of me.
Yeah.
So, you know what? Not going to announce everybody that John's on live, but if you have a question or comment or 2 cents, go ahead and feed it in. And if we see it really quick, we will comment on it.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. If you're out there, please interact with us because I seek what's the word?
Affirmation.
Sure.
Constant information.
Validation.
All of these things I'm constantly seeking.
Love.
Worth.
Yeah, love. This is great. All those things.
Is there anything I didn't tell the people about TKO Presents? Is there anything you guys want to add?
Well, there are a lot of smaller creators, people who are not entirely, but, I get the sense that it's like people who are starting out in the industry and doing their own thing, which is cool. Very cool.
Mm-hmm.
They, so having ordered some of these books and you did not mention what they're doing for local comic shops?
Oh, I didn't. One of the most important things. Noel, tell the people.
So due to all this COVID-19 outbreak or pandemic and shops and whatnot being closed for an unforeseen amount of time. What they're doing is if you purchase directly from their website, whatever format you prefer, and then when you go to check out, you could mention your local comic shop in their drop down or add it, and they will take 50% of the sales of what you're about to buy and give it directly to the comic shop of your choice.
Mm-hmm.
So I did it to support my local comic shop. The owner's a little bit of a shithead, but the shop, I love it. It's Johnny Destructo's Hero Complex. It was actually really, really easy to do. So I went on there. I ordered 2 books. His name was, or the shop there wasn't there yet. So I quickly did a message. Hey, can you add this shop? They were like, we'll get on it. In the meantime, here's a PDF of every first issue. Have fun.
Yeah.
Hey, JD, can you
They are spectacular to work with.
JD, can you throw the name of your shop up on the screen real quick so that people, if they want to enter it in, can see it written out, get it right?
I bet I could figure that out.
All right,
it's
well,
Johnny
now
Destructo's
I-
Hero Complex, 4327 Main Street in Manayunk, PA, which is in Philadelphia. I can click on text on screen and copy Johnny Destructo's Hero Complex.
It's
doing it live.
It's in the drop down now when you go buy from TKO Studios. It's tkopresents.com.
Yeah.
But they were great. And when they first of all, it took no time at all to get my books. And in the package, they gave me a decal and a button. They're great.
Oh, that's awesome.
This
cool.
company is awesome. And I'm even more ingratiated to them because, spoiler, most, if not all of these books were fantastic for me.
Yeah. Agreed. Let's start talking about them. So real quick, does Brian says that the top thing, the name of the episode is that me and Noel are still talking about Bet God Country. Is that still the case for everybody?
No.
Oh,
I mean, on the actual live stream, no. The
Fantastic.
Cult Pop will bring you all TKO presents.
Awesome.
Oh, excellent.
All right. So let's get started with the first book. Forgive me, I'm still new to this program, so I'm trying to throw up. I'm not trying to throw up, I'm not trying to vomit. I'm going to make me audio only. Show and stream. So there's the book, The Banks. We're going to start with The Banks number 1.
Yeah.
All right. And normally with the show, I would say, and Diamond Comics has this to say about the issue, but since these you can't get them through Diamond Comics, TKO Presents has this to say about The Banks. From New York Times best-selling writer Roxane Gay, from The Hunger and Black Panther, and artist Ming Doyle, The Kitchen, the women of the Banks family are the most successful thieves in Chicago. But during the heist of a lifetime, they must band together to avenge a loved one taken too soon. So this is a 6-issue miniseries, all one and done. You can get all of them, as we said earlier, in a myriad of ways. What did you guys think of this story? Len?
I thought this was a really, very cool story. We only read in the first issue. I gotta make sure I stay center in this.
Well, I mean, JD, if you want to come back.
Cool.
I'm working on it.
It's fine, JD. It's a work in progress. It's cool. I thought it was very cool. I thought it was pretty dope. The artwork was, I think everything about it was solid. As a first issue, I think it's an introduction to the story, so it felt like an introduction to the story. It gives you, it's like kind of like building the world of these women, and giving you the backstory. And I like that, it was having fun playing with time, going in and out of flashbacks to kind of like fill in the gaps of these 3 women and how they came to be the criminals that they are or will become without giving anything away. So it was pretty dope. It actually felt like the first episode of a kind of like cool Netflix series.
Yeah.
And so I like that vibe. It definitely had a more grounded world in which they lived in, as opposed to all of the other TKO books, which made it stand out from all the other TKO. I was like, are y'all sure this is TKO? But it was TKO. So I enjoyed it. I think actually the bad part about this, and just being like being real, is that the cover of the book was not super inviting. Like I don't think the cover matches while it's by the same artist, I don't think it matches the vibe and tone of the comic itself. It doesn't really sell it that well.
Yeah, I really like this issue. It is the pilot of a really good television show, or the first 20 minutes of a heist movie.
Yeah,
like kind of setting up the stakes. I really, really liked the paradigm that that the writer created about you're seeing the flash. You're seeing how this family was built, while also seeing in real time how it's about to come back together.
Yes,
it took me a second to. I had
piece
to do
that together.
Yeah, well, I had to do the math in my head that we were seeing the grandmother's story first,
right,
and then we're about to see the mother's story at the very end of the first issue. So I'm hoping that they set up that paradigm throughout the whole series of we're eventually going to see the daughters kind of break from the story, because by all accounts, we're kind of told that these women were more successful than the men in their family with thieves, which I think is awesome. This was really fun. I like this a lot. It felt like the 70s when it was the 70s. It felt like real time when it was real time, or current day. I liked it.
Yeah, this was the surprise hit for me of these. Generally speaking, the closer that something takes place to the here and now, the real world, unless it's a comedy, the less interested I am. Not always, but that's just a general rule. And I found myself reading this, and it's so dynamic, and I got so invested. It was close to the end of the book, and I was like, "Oh, it's close to the end of the book already."
Right.
I'm just breezing through, and I like that guy a lot. I was a little disappointed to hear I hadn't read the synopsis, and I was like, "Oh no, it doesn't go well for him."
Right.
Wait. And the women are all very engaging and very sympathetic, and it's very cool to have them. The guy's got to go, so it can be a story of the generation,
women, right?
The three women,
So I didn't read the synopsis on almost all of these except one, and it was a major spoiler in the synopsis. So it
is. I didn't read it either.
Are all the synopsises spoilers for the first issues? Is that a trend we're going to end up seeing when we start reading these?
Oh, I don't know. I didn't read them over. I just copied and pasted.
Fearsome Fang is literally the spoiler is the synopsis.
Oh,
well, let me ask you this, guys. Mm-hmm. Does it matter if the first issue is a little spoiled? Because the only reason we're reading it number one and then having to wait for the rest of it is because we got free issue number ones from TKO. Everyone else who is purchasing from them is buying all 6 issues in one shot. They're buying the trade paperback, or they're buying the entire thing digitally. So does the first issue does it matter if it's spoiled? Because you already have the whole trade.
Yes, it does.
It's not like they need you to hear. It's not like they need you to have the cliffhanger at the end of issue 1 in order to get you to buy issue 2.
I think it does matter. Only more so in the instance of Fearsome Fang than it does in this. This is you kind of knew, when people are thieves, someone's going to go down eventually. That's fine. Yeah. But with Fang, you didn't have to say that this person is not who they seemed in the second line of the that's unnecessary. But sure. And I don't know if that's the best business model. If you're fuck the first issue, they're bought in. I think you have to just kind of be coy around it, right?
Yeah. And I also think in regards to this issue, if I read that kind of like that synopsis, and it's saying that they're trying to avenge the loss of somebody. Right. Nobody is lost in this first issue. So now
I assume it's the grandfather or dad, but I guess I don't technically know.
Maybe it's the white boyfriend. Maybe it's the grandmother. We don't know.
Yeah. Well, something tells me you're not the grandmother, because this is about 3 generations of crooks.
I mean, she can get killed, and then they're like, "What?"
What? No, I don't know. I mean, that still would have spoiled it a little bit for me. I do see your viewpoint that, you know, if you're buying the whole thing, you know, does it really matter? But I still think you got to be like selective. I think even you could like that synopsis could basically say this is telling the story of the 3 generation of thieves, which is, while a little bit of a spoiler, as you read the book, you kind of see where it's going. So it's not that big of a spoiler.
When you watch crime dramas,
there's 3 of them.
When you watch a crime drama,
what's that?
I didn't hear what you had last said because I cut you off. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I didn't figure it out. It was like towards the end of the book, and I was like, "Oh, there's 3 of them. There's 3 generations."
Same thing. Same thing. I guess because I'm not good at math, I was like, "Oh, wait a minute. Which one's which? Which time period is for which character? Is this the same woman as before, or is this what's happening? I don't understand how years work."
In the last when she started training her daughter in like 72, I was like, "Oh, this is her mom." Okay, yeah, her mom's daughter. But to your point though about a spoiler or whatnot, with a story like this, when you go and watch a crime drama, there's very specific things that just happen.
Yes.
The only spoiler or surprise is who they happen to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like it's one of those genres that there's no real originality or options for originality yet. It's really just how well you tell the story, not we're going to tell a new one. This is not new, but it's just very well done. It's very solid.
This would all be in the trailer for the movie.
And all of this would be in the trailer.
Yeah.
This would a lot of people would still consider this new though, because it's not too often, especially because this does have such a cinematic scope to it. At least, and styling to it. It's not too often in movies where you have not 1, not 2, but 3 Black women who are crooks. They are decidedly against the law. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so it's kind of moral too. Like there's a more than kind of moral. I mean, they show it in the guy. Like they're a little Robin Hood-ish. You know what I mean? Well, maybe not. Robin Hood gave it away. They're not giving it away. But
to be fair too, like that's just the logistics of the story. This type of story is not new. Like it's the spin of it is the fact that it is 3 strong African-American women all throughout the 60s to present day and their specific perspectives.
And that it's
like, what is it? Huh?
And that it's 3 is kind of a twist, you know, rather than 2. Like a lot of times you'd see a daughter that rebelled against the mother and come back, not a generational legacy, that kind of thing.
I like this. Yeah. This was good.
What about you, JD?
Well, I liked it for the most part. I think the writing was great. I really enjoyed the story. The dialogue and everything felt very naturalistic, and I believed all the characters. But I do think the art, while for the most part is very competent, is a little on the bland side, and some of the posing is a little static. People, walking. Mostly it's when you see a full body in space, in the space around it, that things feel a little static and a little dry.
Little stiff. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. The acting, when you have medium shots of the characters and you mostly only see them from the waist up and they're gesticulating, I think it looks great. It's really like the establishing shots where you see people walking in space. I think the backgrounds are a little sparse. It doesn't, like, for instance, Chicago, Illinois, 1968. I'm looking at the bus station, and there's no debris, detritus. It just looks like a architecture's drawing as opposed to a place that exists and feels lived in. Other than that, I think it's great. I really was impressed with this, and I'd love to read more of this and or watch it. It feels very much like a TV show or something.
Nice.
Yeah. Should we move on?
Yeah.
Why don't we?
Guys, this applies to all of the books. Little thing. I think it's cool that they have the accreditation pages. TKO presents A World by, and then I think it's a cool intro. There's
a lot of little nifty, slick things that they've done across all these books we can pick at. Like these are two well products.
I think that's actually very cool because in this world of comics, so many people are used to shared universes. It's just letting you know that this is a universe. Each book is a universe in and unto itself.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So what's next?
Well, I'll tell you what's next. It's Sentient, #1, by Jeff Lemire and Gabriel Walta. From Eisner Award winners Jeff Lemire of Black Hammer and Gabriel Walta from The Vision. When an attack kills the adults on a colony ship, the onboard AI Valerie must help the ship's children survive the perils of space. Can Valerie rise to the task? Holy goddamn it! That's a huge spoiler. That entire thing is a spoiler, and I'm glad I didn't read it ahead of time because when I finished this book, I went, "Oh shit!"
Can we like before we read these? Can we just go like read them slightly ahead and just do like the first line? Because I don't. Do we want to spoil them that hard in the? I guess it doesn't matter. It's spoiler alert, isn't it?
I mean, I think it's spoiler alert, and we're reviewing the first episodes.
Yes,
and anybody who's going on to TKO Presents to order one of these books is probably going to read that anyway.
Yeah.
So, this was probably my favorite of all of the options. I'm a on again, off again fan of Jeff Lemire, but this is an on again book for me. I thought this was fantastic. The pressure that builds throughout this entire first issue is palpable. It's really well crafted. The art is, for the most part, amazing. I think it's one of the better looking books of our options today, and the writing is fantastic. I can't. This is definitely my favorite of all of the books. What did you guys think, Brian?
I liked it. Maybe second favorite total, but it's a high mark. You know, it was really good. Gut wrenching towards the end. You know, you really built up an affinity for the characters. The art was phenomenal. It has elements of kind of a 70s sci-fi, like the austerity kind of, minimalism of that kind of thing. Like on the cover, you know, the cover is great. The cover is a huge spoiler, but only after it's not a spoiler because only after you know what happens. Really interesting premise. This was a real rough issue, but you know, the whole idea of like the ship will now be raising them for who knows how long it's going to be. They could be adults by the time they get to that colony that they're looking to get to. The whole idea of being in that no communication zone for a while, they could stay there for a while. The ship could be like, let's just chill here. Enough with the dangers of the outside, you know? So overall, yeah, real fascinating, emotionally engaging, and a real interesting premise. I liked it.
Yeah, the aesthetic was, I was telling JD last night, the aesthetic of this is very much like the first Alien movie, like a very practical and grimy version of the future. And the coloring is very difficult to kind of get used to right away because it almost looks muddled, but it's oddly effective halfway through the issue. Like it's really, really nice.
I loved everything about this book. I loved the look of it. I thought the coloring it helped create this very lived in world for it to be, you know, obviously in the future. It's still, it grounded the sci-fi of it to me. I love that the cast, as it were, of this book is multi-racial. I love that. I love the juxtaposition of the different relationships between parents and kids that you read in the beginning. This was, and I'm too like JD, kind of like hit or miss with Jeff Lemire, but this like blew me away. And this, along with the Banks, was probably the easiest read for me. It was just like breezy, and I was hooked right from the beginning, and it took me solidly to the end. It was really good.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna because I this is one of the trades that I decided to buy. I'm probably going to finish this today. This was just really, really good. Well, it wasn't. It was at the top, but it wasn't my favorite, or at least it wasn't as surprising. I think I had more. I think I had higher expectations for this one, and they were just met.
Yeah.
I also have like a wishy-washy relationship with Jeff Lemire's stuff. I do have Black Hammer ready to go probably during this
Black Hammer
that I'll read because everyone keeps telling me, especially you, Len, you're just like Black Hammer.
I just finished Black Hammer last week, and I'm almost mad that I'm finished it because now I walk around my house and look at it. I'm like, it's too soon to read it again.
Question. Well, wait a minute. There's like 19 Black Hammer miniseries.
Yeah, but I read the main series, and probably outside of Sherlock, Frankenstein, and Justice League Black Hammer, I don't know. I looked at the other ones, and I'm like, I think I'm good.
Yeah, isn't it the main series is actually only like 20 issues or something like that?
Like a little over, yeah.
Yeah, because it's like 2 big books, or it's going to be 2 big books, like the first 12 and then the next 12, and then after that, it's just the umpteen miniseries.
Exactly.
Yeah, guys, I really like in this book, Sentient.
We're going to talk about this one now. Okay, yeah. I didn't know we were going back to the book that we were supposed to talk about.
I liked there's like well-defined black lines coupled with this like soft focus with everything. And it's an interesting pairing. I like the soft focus, and I like what it does to the feel of this world. It's very high tech, but I think it goes toward grounding it, like you were talking about, Len.
Yeah, I love Gabriel.
Yeah, I remember.
Sorry.
Oh, so earlier today when I started reading it, I sent Noel a message because I know he has the hardcover to read on paper, and I'm reading it digitally here. And I said, is this artwork supposed to be this fuzzy, or is this just like they uploaded a low res PDF? Because that happens a lot. If it's a low res PDF, the artwork itself will be fuzzy, but anything that is in vector, that is created in Illustrator, it comes through very crisp. And so that's happening here. There's this dissonance happening where the artwork, which looks like watercolor and ink, is then laid on top of with Illustrator vector art that creates the word bubbles and the text. And those do not feel like they are of the same style. So it kind of pulls me out. And I wish that the text, I wish that the letterer had done something to make the text look more of the world that is in.
I hear you.
Yeah, there is between the lettering and the picture. I guess it didn't bother me so much because I was in, but as soon as you pointed it out, I was like, yeah, it's there. But there was something similar like that to Walta's work on The Vision.
Yeah,
where it did have that kind of fuzzy, almost memory-like depiction of the story, which this also did.
Yeah,
but it is a little jarring.
Other than that, this book is fantastic. I'm sorry, Brian.
Oh, no, I wonder if this will jump ahead a significant amount of years in the next issue. It kind of seems like it would, actually, because in the very end, she's like, the narrator, I think, is the girl that we meet in the beginning, and says something about how, like, and then this is how it was now, almost like she barely remembers the time before.
Yeah. Do you guys feel a sense of dread now that this AI has been unleashed and is no longer having the protocol of murder?
No, I don't at all.
No, I think she'll take care of them.
Yeah, actually, that's not how I read it at all. They don't have the protocol of murder. It's protect the children at all costs.
Mm-hmm. She really doesn't want to murder anybody.
If anything, her overbearing protection is going to be the antagonist of the story, not we have to fear this AI, which is totally cool.
Yeah, because I actually love the idea that after the AI is made by us for right reasons to have to kill someone, the AI itself is basically saying, okay, can you please put back in my protocols? I don't want to keep doing this. I understand that I had to do this. This was a one-off. Let's make this a one-off. Somebody hit the button so I can go back to, being nice Val. I don't want to be bloody Val.
Yeah.
Now, do you guys, I don't know if any of you watched it, but there was a Netflix movie, I believe it was called Mother. I'm not entirely sure.
Yes.
I haven't seen it.
But brutal. That's a brutal page. But it's another story, a sci-fi story where a young girl is being raised by an artificial intelligence locked away in a bunker underground, I believe. Did you guys see that?
No.
I think I did see that.
I saw the trailer for it.
I seen the I'm trying to remember that I see it.
It was pretty interesting. It was pretty good. But yeah, it definitely reminded me of. I was thinking of that while reading this.
Yeah, this was good stuff. This was definitely good
awesome.
stuff. The artwork, like you all mentioned, I felt the difference in the lettering, and that I didn't have as much of an issue with it on this one. There are other books that we will talk about where some of that disconnect individuals played a part in my enjoyment a lot more.
It's like a teaser. It's like a teaser for a complaint. I'm excited.
All right.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alerts. Someone doesn't like it.
All right. Visible streams limit reached. Okay, whatever. You can still hear me, right? Oh, great. Yeah. So next up is Pound for Pound by Natalie Chaidez and Andy Bellinger. Underground MMA fighter Danny Libra fears nothing except for the recurring blackouts that spark memories of a bloody past. When her sister is kidnapped, Danny must shine a light on the darkness in her own mind. But how long can she keep her own demons at bay? This is a book that I actually got to read all of. I had bought the entire trade paperback, so I thought it would be good just to have at least one full story in the bank. This is a very, very strange book. It starts off kind of like a crime noir story. All of the dialogue is very ham-fisted, heavy-handed, just very dramatic. And then as it goes, it gets more and more, I would say, Tarantino-esque or
Robert Rodriguez,
very much so. Like this is, if you ever saw Grindhouse,
this
is a Grindhouse comic book, I would say, if I had to categorize it. The further it goes, the wackier it gets, the crazier the turns. I wasn't sure for a while if I was enjoying it, but then I decided, yeah, this is pretty fun. I'm enjoying this book pretty much. So what did you guys think of Pound for Pound? Noel?
I kind of loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Like this first issue, like first of all, the very first page of our main character getting like knocked the fudge out, it immediately reminded me of Steve Dillon in a weird way.
Okay.
And I was, or like almost if like it's like the total detail, like the tons and tons of detail, like a Chris Burnham,
right?
But the facial features and a motive of like Steve Dillon, and I just loved the art. So I was in on that level. And then I just kind of became ingratiated to this boxer or to this fighter, this incredibly strong, awesome female fighter, and her backstory as she goes dark. She has these fits of rage where it's just, she can't be controlled. And I loved it. I really, really loved it. Of all the books we read, this is one of two that I can't wait to finish.
Nice.
Yeah, this was great. I liked it a
lot. The artwork reminded me of very much of Stray Bullets by David Lapham, which is a long-running crime comic book. And the interesting thing is that in the first issue, I wasn't super enamored with the artwork, but there is a switch that happens around issue 3 that is, I almost went back, I went back and checked to see if it was an entirely different artist, because the inking gets so much tighter and there's so much, the lines get a lot more delicate and the detail gets a lot more intricate, but it just looked like the artist hit his stride, Andy Bellinger. And it really takes off around issue about 2 or 3, I think.
There's some wonderful details in here too. Like he captures the details of her cauliflower ear because she's a boxer.
Yes.
But he doesn't forget about it. So even when she's foreground or background, it's still there. Like it's a very detailed book, but not in a distracting way, just in a like care was taken, and I really, really appreciate that. I like it a lot.
Yeah, the detail is, I noticed that with the cauliflower ear, and that it remained consistent throughout all of the pages, because I always kind of like look for something like that. And also the detail in just the world building, you know, from the trailer to like the streets, to when she has to go to like this big drug dealer's place, to where they are in this underground MMA type of situation. Like you feel that you are in each of one of these environments. You, JD, and name checking Dave Lapham from Stray Bullets. That's actually a good call. Me, myself, one, I love the art from the get-go, but it's funny. It reminded me of a more intricate, mature Dan DiCarlo, the artist from Archie. Like for some reason, I was looking at it, and it gave me like, you know, like a even more visceral Archie feeling.
I can see that if he would just add a level of detail in the lines on a face and the like lips and eye wrinkles, then it would totally be there.
And that's what and that I think is what really like locked me into this book, so that even when it went like a little left and all of a sudden she's like pulling on the luchador mask when she's about to go ham, I'm like, you know what? I think I'm in on this joint. I'm in. I am in for this book. This book was so much fun. I enjoyed it a great deal. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Yeah. That is dope, man.
So far we're 3 for 3.
We are 3 for 3. We're there. TKO is a total knockout right now.
Did Brian say does he like it?
I did. So I haven't mentioned one way or the other yet. Here it comes. So
fuck this book.
Classic Brian.
I took a shit on one book, a physical shit, and this is the one.
Yeah. Ruined my iPad, but I did it.
My name's Brian, and you've been leaved.
Brian. So I didn't notice. No, when you pointed out the splash page that it opens with, I noticed this before. It's a very cool detail where you see the trail of the woman who's knocking out, her fist come from around her back in front of her, changing color as it, you know, like almost a Doppler effect of it hitting that. And then the reverse of the mouth guard, like bouncing out. That is really cool. You know, that is very cool. Yeah. I'm glad to hear, JD, that you said it gets weirder and weirder, because that is the coolest element of this book. And I felt wasn't so much in the first issue, but there were hints of it. But it's the first issue. You know, that's cool.
Yeah, right. It gets very much like Garth Ennis in The Boys or maybe Preacher.
I haven't read those, but I'll take your word.
Yeah, it's nuts.
Yeah, it's good. Very beginning of Preacher, but never read The Boys. There was a book that we reviewed a few months ago, and I don't remember what it was called, but it was like a woman trying to erase all of her marks on the world, and she was being hunted down, and she had a companion who was like a human body, but the head was a bird cage with the skull of a bird in it. You remember that?
Was that Heartbreak or Heartbeat or something?
I don't think so, but I don't remember.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Very cool book, and has a similar kind of feel. They're both at least slightly surreal worlds.
Oh, was that Coffin Bound?
That's what it was.
Yeah, you really liked that.
I really did.
Like, all right.
Yeah. I was the only one that liked it as much as I did, but I really liked it. And this kind of has a similar, you know, Grindhouse, but I didn't see Grindhouse, but with like a bit of unreality in it, you know, not our reality in it.
Very heightened.
Heightened reality,
Yeah. But also I think a sense of like some weird shit going down. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
In the desert, in the sparseness and austerity of the desert. And that's a cool, you know, kind of environment for some weird shit to go down in.
So
interesting book.
Speaking of total knockouts, Noel's got a total knockout walking around back there. Yeah. Oh.
My friend likes you.
All right, let's move on to Eve of Extinction #1. Let's see. Sal Simone, Steve Simone, Isaac Goodhart, and Maria Nguyen and Nick Varela.
It's Sal, I think.
Sal, what'd I say?
Sal.
Sal.
I think you said, yeah. You said
Sal, Simone, and Steve Simone. And is that Simone or Simeon?
Simeon.
Salvatore and Steve Simeon.
Simeon. Okay, cool. I know a lot of people saw the cover of this and they thought it was Gail Simone. But it's not. It's Sal Simeon. The rain brought something that changed the men into something inhuman. To rescue their stranded daughter, two mothers must survive the hurricane and the horrors it's unleashed. Can they work together long enough to save their only child? I don't know. I only read first issue, but it was great. This was the last one I got around to reading, and it's got a John Carpenter's The Thing sort of vibe to it, mixed with like maybe a zombie apocalypse. Or actually, I guess more appropriately, the Rick and Morty episode. What were those called? The Cronenbergs.
Oh, the Cronenberg universe. Yeah.
Where everybody is sort of this Cronenberg body horror monster. And so this rain is bringing this, I guess, disease that mutates people. And of course, it's got a little bit of real world politics in that the Earth is warming, and so the polar ice caps are melting, and it's unleashing all new viruses and all new organisms that are going to affect us. And I thought this was really great as well. This TKO man is really killing it. This is a great end of the world book, and I'm really excited to see where it goes from here. I really liked all of the characterizations. I liked the relationships that it's developing between the mother. You know, her biological mother was dealing with addiction and had gone away and was trying to get clean. And so I guess they left. She left her daughter with her friends, who are a couple who have been watching her ever since. No.
I think the dad is her dad. I think
the dad's the biological.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Okay, so the biological dad is now with a new woman, and they are raising the daughter. And so the biological mom is just now coming into the picture and getting a little bit of, FaceTime with her daughter and trying to reconnect. And then, of course, the rain brings monsters. So what did you guys think, Brian?
I thought I thought the story was very well told. It's not the kind of story that grabs me. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I thought it was well done, and I'd like to add another sort of, probably not influence, but just similarity. A little Why the Last Man. I haven't personally read it, but just the idea that like women only are going to be the protagonists. Except Why the Last Man.
I did not understand that from the story until I just read the
synopsis.
Yeah. I was like, how come they're running in the rain? I guess you have to be in the rain longer. I didn't realize it was a male only transformation.
I got that at the end, and then I pieced back together that the woman on the ship was the one that was there, and she was like, "You guys are it already. You just don't know it."
Yeah, that's when it tipped off for me too. It's just like, oh, women aren't susceptible to whatever this is.
Right. And
which made me sad because I liked the dad a lot, and then I realized at that point, like, oh, you're the first victim of this horror movie.
Yeah, that was a bummer. He seemed like a pretty cool guy.
He was a great dude. Yeah.
Yeah, but the relationship, I bet, playing out between the mother and the other mother,
stepmother.
Stepmother, yeah. But consider her mother. You know, it's.
I get the impression that this blonde woman raised this girl, like
for a while.
The mother has been out of the picture for at least a decade.
So that is interesting. Like, clearly a lot of tension there because the blonde mother cares a lot for her, but then. You know, when stuff starts to go down, she's like, "Oh my God, Claire!" I forget the woman's name, but "Oh my God, I don't want you to die." You know.
Oh my God! So oh my God!
So the two of them with the daughter could be a real cool setup.
I liked this, but it reminded me of like 10 other things, so I was a little less like enamored with it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it reminded me of Walking Dead. It reminded me of 28 Days Later. It reminded me of Cronenberg. It reminded me of Why the Last Man. Like it was, and it also reminded me of the Luna Brothers Girls.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And even the art kind of looked very Luna.
Yeah, it does.
It reminded me of so many things that I kind of kept getting taken out a little bit. Not saying that it had to be like something totally fresh. It's just the first issue felt a touch like a chore because it's like, oh, I've seen this before.
Yeah.
I've seen this, but in a slightly negative way. Now, with that said, though, it's still interesting enough to kind of keep going because I want to know what happens to the daughter. She's in a lockout, so like it's classic horror movie kind of scenario,
right?
And I did really like the premise too, with the idea where, because the polar ice caps are melting, new organisms are being introduced into our ecosystem, and hurricanes are stronger and moving towards areas that they weren't supposed to. So you've got like this, I think it's a very original kind of perfect cocktail for body horror. The idea of these new organisms being transmitted through harsh weather patterns that we constantly keep going through because the Earth is changing climate. I think that's really, really cool.
Yeah.
I just want to see the second issue. I want to see like a ramp into it, less setup, just go.
Well, I thought that as a first issue, this was the one that felt the most like a first issue written for a first issue, because it has like the whole build up with the flashback in the beginning, and then kind of like takes you into present day, facts of life type of situation going on, and like almost a CW show for a little bit before the payoff at the end. So this was the one that actually felt like an actual like this is our trailer for the story to get you locked in. So
is that good or bad?
As far as a first issue, I think that is good. And I think it's enough to sell you on buying, okay, either continue buying the story, or if you have the option, getting the whole story as one is in a trade or hardback. So so I actually think that that's fine. And the art, like you mentioned the Luna Brothers, it definitely is reminiscent of the Luna Brothers. I think it's a little bit tighter, and I enjoyed it a little bit more than the Luna Brothers.
I would say it's the Luna Brothers mixed with Mike Norton.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one too.
It's a little more angular than the Luna Brothers usually is.
What took me out of it though was the computer wording, like on the special effects and the
here it is.
The thought, the captions and everything like that, the bubbles, the word bubbles. That took me out of it. Len,
because I see what you're saying. Sometimes like cough, gasp, that is a font.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
And the text bubbles are also very they're like, fonts mixed with Illustrator effects.
Yeah.
But then the artist is actually in there as well, drawing sound effects sometimes as well.
Yeah.
So there's this interesting thing happen where they're doing a bunch of different text options.
But maybe I think like even that one where it looks more like it's the artist drawing, but because he did it as like a computer effect on there, it still took me out of it. It still didn't feel as one with the art. You know what I mean?
All the layers aren't meshing very well together.
Yeah.
Not unlike how you said with Sentient, it's like it's the text boxes were like a layer on top of the art. This is like 3 or 4 layers, and they're not blended very well together.
Yeah, and that just took me out of it a little bit, especially considering that middle part. Especially considering in the beginning, at least if it's there, I didn't feel it as much because the setting is so dark and stark. And I love the whole intro with these guys having to land on this ship, and you feel like this empty ship. And if that doesn't like scare you, especially when you hear about in the world we're living in today, where there are actual ships that can't dock, that is like very. I was like very like
Florida.
You know what I mean?
They're like, we're not going to take in your sick. Like what?
Well, I mean, look, man, there's some mitigating. I can
11 people.
I can appreciate. This is. I don't want to get too real world right now, but I can appreciate with the way that this world is going right now, and with the news changing almost freaking hourly, that if you are trying to get a control on what is happening where you are. I don't care if it's 1, 2, 11. I don't care how many other people it is coming into my situation. One person can mess up my whole program that I've got going on here. And I can appreciate somebody having to make a very hard call on some of that type of stuff. So I'm not going to knock too many people.
I'm going to knock Florida.
Okay. Well, you've got this thing about Florida. I don't know what it is.
Oh, you're from there.
You're from Florida, right? No?
I lived there for a very, very long time.
Okay.
Oh, because I thought Chicago was your hometown.
It is.
Okay.
But I went to high school in Florida.
Okay. All right.
Hey, do you guys, when mentioned that they were in a lockdown in the school, do you guys think any main characters will be men who need to stay out of the rain? You know what I mean?
I hope so.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Like somebody who's with them, you don't want to leave him behind. He's a human being, but he's an imminent liability, like the dude that
we've got that new not quite boyfriend character.
Yeah,
I think I'm dead.
Do you think also do you guys notice that
I think he's gonna die hard?
So? Yeah, he might.
I haven't read ahead, but he's a victim.
Yeah.
I noticed also when we were looking back through it that the men in the end, when they turn, they're saying things that they're angry about, which is not something I picked up on in the first read.
So it's toxicity.
Maybe. Although these are like that dad is probably a good guy, you know what I mean, or he was. But now this is bringing out some kind of anger-related monstrosity.
The dad was a good guy, but he definitely read like someone who had a lot of stuff pent up. Like he was, which I can imagine if he's somebody who had a relationship with someone and then for whatever reason things go left and now he has to raise his daughter. There's a lot of stuff that you sometimes can't say for sake of raising your daughter and not wanting to paint too bad a light of the mom or the situation. So I can imagine, and the woman that he is with, she certainly seems like she has a type A personality, which can probably be a little grating as well. So he definitely read as somebody who tamps down a lot of his emotions.
He was a little mellow, and mellow is not the right word, but yeah.
The other thing I will say about this book, and forgive me, JD, because I'm just going to straight up admit it, I did not quite make it to the end of this book. And that's because this book had to deal with body horror. I don't do well with body horror.
No kidding.
And I made it through the beginning and it was cool. But then when I said, when I saw Dad and he got the nasty pink eye, I said, oh, this next page is not going to be pleasant. And I saw that next page and I saw a couple of pages after that.
Yeah.
I said, you know what? I think I formed enough of opinion that I can offer up an opinion on the show. I don't need to finish this book. So I did not finish this book.
Everyone's lagged. Here we go. I love the body horror. My favorite.
Noel with a spoon.
It was kind of a bummer, right? So the husband's outside and he's collecting the trash or whatever, and he comes back in and he has mutated and he's coming to kill them, and they stab him in the back and then beat him with a frying pan until his head explodes. Yeah. And then the wife goes, why is that thing wearing Eddie's clothes? He's probably still out there. We just have to find him. And I was like, oh, you poor baby. Yeah. You don't realize that's your husband yet. And that's a great little touch, man. I thought that was really kind of emotional of like, my husband's still out there. This thing stole his clothes. And it's just, it's so ridiculous. But then I guess when you compare it to the ridiculousness of, oh yes, my husband, who I just saw 30 seconds ago, has lumbered back in a monster. It's kind of funny.
I hope that they continue through the rest of the book, but it sets up a really, really great dynamic where the put together woman is, she's a scientist, is completely thrown apart by the fact that this is wild and irrational.
Yeah.
Whereas the ex-junkie who's seen it all is like, nah, bitch, let's go. Like,
Yeah.
we do this, we do this. I've seen this movie.
Yeah.
So, like, it's cool that immediately the roles were reversed, where this level of authority is shot down to the ground, and they're there. Yeah, that was really cool.
That's interesting. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, another good book. Let's see. I am grabbing. I will tell you. It is Sara. I'm trying to bring it up.
Sara, which you kind of, for some reason, I guess felt like their all-star book because you got Garth Ennis and Steve Lieber.
Well, that's the reason. No, it's Garth Ennis and Steve Epting.
Steve Epting. That's what I meant. Steve Epting. Yeah.
People who you have heard of.
Preacher, The Punisher, The Boys, and Steve Epting, Velvet, Captain America. In the cold winter of 1942, Soviet sniper Sara and her comrades fight against Nazi invaders. But as the fighting intensifies, can their squad survive? Inspired by true events. I did not know that. This was also great. One of the things that Garth Ennis is very, very good at is war stories. When, sometimes some of his creator-owned stuff gets very, very ridiculous, a little out of hand. It's not quite for me sometimes, like The Boys. It seems like he's almost trying to outgross himself every episode. But this is chef's kiss. It's wonderful Garth Ennis war story stuff. And basically, we are here with a bunch of female Russian soldiers who are tucked away, ready to fight the Nazis when they show up. What did you guys think of this book, Noel?
I thought this was like a 9 masterpiece. So I finished the whole thing in one go. It's one of the better war stories I've ever read, which is a very difficult. It's a difficult genre to get into. And it's not praised enough in comic books. Garth Ennis seems to be the only one that is doing it regularly by virtue of his namesake. He moves from publisher to publisher that will just make these books for him. Like it was like Dynamite for a hot second, and then some other unknown publisher that would throw any artist at him so he can make his own stories. This was gorgeous. It was wonderful. I love the level of detail that he adds to this, like, and not just like the level of detail in the art so much as in the story. So like the way that they have sleeves that cover their hands because of the cold, the way that they wrap their muzzle, the way that they are set up positions as snipers, the way that the Soviet Union is treating women during the war efforts, the fact that they are using them more than any other country really is in tanks and planes and whatnot, but they refuse to put them in infantry.
Right.
Like all of these things are spectacular.
And a tank drove into the house that they have to live in, so they just covered it with a tarp and just were like, all right, your women will be fine.
Yeah, they wanted to give the women private space, so they put them in this like falling down bunker. There's so many. The characters in this are great. The art is spectacular. The way that the story ends, it just crescendos into a beautiful moment that was seeded in the first issue, and it made me not happy, but because it's a war story, but I was just so incredibly impressed. I loved this book 1,000%.
It's so good. I'm not a big war story fan for the most part, but there are certain ones that will get me, and it's usually Garth Ennis comics. He does some of the best war stories. But I highly agree. I think this is another one of the best books put out by TKO so far. And I definitely want to finish this one. This one was great. Len.
I love a good war story. I haven't read too many good war comic books, but a good war movie I will love. And probably my favorite war movies are the ones that have to deal with a group of people having to deal with some type of situation, whether or not be a mission or something that they're involved in. Case in point, Kelly's Heroes, which is referenced on behind me back there. But like most war movies, especially here in the United States, they're from the United States point of view, which means that it's just, it's a sausage party. So to have this book be centered around a group of women and them feeling 100% feminine, yet still, strong, still with distinct personalities, and having that come from a whole Russian point of view, which offers you a different take on how the women are treated and their upbringing and how they're experiencing this war, was very fascinating, enlightening, enjoyable, and extremely well done. The details in the storytelling, the details in the world building, the details in the art. Garth Ennis, I always like his war stuff more than anything. Steve Epting is an artist who he's actually grown into one of those artists that if he's doing it, it's got to be absolute dog food for me not to buy it, because I just love everything he does.
I don't remember him being this good in Captain America.
No, he wasn't. He's grown so much from since Captain America.
Like, it was
everything
good.
he's done from there has been light years different.
I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, this is definitely the best Epting I've ever seen.
The women's faces are so distinct. It's insane. Like, they are not all the same woman. This is so good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, if you gave this to another artist, all the women would look the same. They'd be indistinguishable from each other. And this, every woman is physically different than the one next to her.
So are these based? These could easily be based on photographs of these actual women, and that might
true.
be.
That's true. That probably helped a lot if that's the case. Yeah.
Yeah.
This lineup, it's like he in the far right, the younger woman, Liddy, like. There's Terry Moore in there. Like it's this art is just spectacular, and it really did sell it for me. It put it over the edge. And what you were saying before too, Len, the idea that it's a Russian perspective. Even these women, like, it's not a spoiler later on. Like, the main character Sara is very, very jaded. She's been a part of the war effort for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they get into, there's a whole subplot about the propaganda machine of the Soviet Union and her disdain for it. So there's an officer that's assigned to them to kind of like craft these stories, and that becomes its own kind of subplot. There's a lot of layers to this book. So by the time that they introduce the idea, I think it's in issue 4, like right towards the end, they introduce the conflict of a rival sniper. You're like, how the fuck is this book going to fit all this shit in 2 more issues? And it does. It's so good. This book is great. It's just great.
So I noticed also it says TKO presents, whereas all the other ones say TKO present a world by. And, I was like, I wonder why that is. It's because it's based on a true story.
This isn't they have not presented this world.
Also, I feel like every other book that we've read, no matter how they end, they might have sequels, whereas this will not. This is a story.
It's like what happened to Sara later on.
Full one and done. Yeah, there's going to be no further adventures of Sara.
No,
not in that. It's just, it's a complete story.
The story's done. Right. So I really like the art. I like, JD, you'd probably be able to name. Oh.
Sorry.
That's all right. You'd probably be able to name it better than me. Like what it's called, but it kind of like digitally painted. I'm always down for this style of art that's like kind of realist, sort of thing. I definitely felt like I was reading a Black Widow comic for a while. Just because of my background. I'm not a huge war story fan or a big Garth Ennis fan. So this is that being said, I thought it was a really well told story, and I really, not my kind of thing, but superbly done, and interesting.
I also think that this Garth Ennis, I hope, has found a comic book company home for his war stories, because I think the packaging and their publishing model fits these stories perfectly, because I don't think these are not going to be like huge sellers, and you don't want to have to be sitting there waiting from month to month for the issues. And I don't think he even wants to. I think he probably if he, in his druthers would rather just be able to put it out whole cloth as a book.
Yeah, if you give me a war story by Garth Ennis every year, TKO, I will purchase it sight unseen. This is fantastic.
Did we talk about the trade paperbacks and how they are a larger format than most other trades?
No, but we are now.
Yeah, right. I was just, thinking about the artwork and how it's not quite as small as trade paperbacks usually from Marvel or DC. They're slightly taller, and it's I like the format a lot. It's nice to look at the art that slightly bigger.
Yeah, and you know what? That format, because as Noel will show you, the trade paperbacks are darn near, if not equal to, the size of like an omnibus hardback. That will do very well in selling the artwork. But that is where a book like in my opinion, a book like Eve of Extinction and even more the Banks, I think it will hurt them with that art being blown up that big, even in a collected edition. It just won't it won't match the same gravitas of that size to me.
The physical copies that I do have are Eve of Extinction, Sara, and Sentient. Oh, and Dr. Fang. I've got 4 of them. It's a little jarring in Sentient because you've got that kind of gritty, muddy kind of thing. And
right.
In Eve of Extinction, I had noticed it, but I didn't articulate it very well. But you did, Len. The idea where you can almost see the layers between the art and the lettering and the fabric, or like the art lettering, the digital lettering, and the color. Like you could see that a little bit more in the print version. But with Sara, it's all hand done and it's all gorgeous.
Perfect.
Yeah, and the Fearsome Fang, which I'm sure we'll talk about, the Dan McQuaid art also. It's very classic. It's very there. There's no production manipulation that's noticeable at all.
Right.
Well, I do want to clarify. The word bubbles and everything are not hand drawn in Sara. Oh, it's still done in Illustrator, but I think it matches the style of the artwork.
Exactly.
Yes, thank you. It's not hand lettered. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Should we move on to Goodnight Paradise?
Sure.
Yes.
Because we're gonna
do it. We're moving on.
Here we go. All right. From the Eisner Award-nominated creators Joshua Dessart and Alberto Ponticelli comes a searing murder mystery. Unlikely homeless hero Eddie investigates the brutal murder of a runaway teenage girl, but can he alone bring her killer or killers to justice? This might be one of my least favorite of them. I did not get as involved with the characters as I did some of the other books. The art, to go back to what we were talking about with the art versus the lettering and everything, the art in this book, I don't know if it's because it's a digital copy and they just uploaded 100 DPI as opposed to 300 DPI. The artwork is so fuzzy and kind of very muted, and it pulls me out because all the artwork is so fuzzy. It was hard to get involved in the story. But other than that, I just didn't find myself overly engaged. What did you guys think about this book?
As a note, I have a different cover than you do, but they have
that's the cover of the box.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They're similar themes, though. They're both like something on fire, and they're both cool.
I absolutely loved this.
Tell us why.
I just absolutely loved it. I loved the idea of a detective story that's very askew. In college, this is stupid, but in college, floated around an idea of writing a story with a couple of friends about essentially a murder mystery, but it was, I think we had a pimp trying to find out who's killing all of his prostitutes. The idea of having a murder mystery and a detective story without ever using a detective, I thought was really, really cool. And you've got this homeless drunk who almost like a natural ability to notice patterns, just can't get it out of his head, and keeps stumbling into clues for this murdered woman that no one cares about. I thought it was great. I want to read the rest of this.
You know what it is, Noel? I think my problem with it is that there was already a story like this put out by Black Mask Studios called The Dregs, and we reviewed it for Spoiler Alert a couple years ago. And it's another detective story about a homeless detective trying to solve murders of homeless people, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And that was written by Lonnie Nadler and Zach Thompson. So yeah, I already had that in the back of my brain stuff.
The Dregs?
The Dregs. Dregs. What did you think, Len?
This was my favorite book.
What?
This was absolutely my favorite book. I had absolutely no idea that I would resonate with this homeless guy so much. I love the idea that not only is this book told from the detective's point of view, but we're being introduced into the point of view of the homeless world. The world is seen from their vantage point. Whether or not they're on the bench or they're in the alley sleeping or they're drunk in the RV. I love absolutely everything about this book. The art that you mentioned, that while it may have like a little bit of a grit and a fuzziness to it, to me, it reminded me of my favorite issues of even like maybe like Heavy Metal or Epic Illustrated back in the day. It had like a little bit of like a Crumb style to it. I was into it. It felt like homeless LA, homeless California. It felt like real live. It felt like California, but definitely from the homeless point of view. Go ahead, Noel.
Well, I was gonna say, like, it is so, the story itself, like when you break it apart, it is so incredibly stereotypical for a noir. Like, they introduce you to the beatdown character, the broken relationship, and then subtly or like slowly the cast of characters that are all their own like messy pieces, and then you start to see it kind of like fall into place, just like a classic noir with like that is by the numbers, except that it's from this perspective that's just engaging. Like, you kind of see this new world that we're not, graciously privy to.
Well, that we pass by every day, because how often are we there and the homeless guy is, in our minds spewing nothing, talking about people walking the wrong way, but also, could easily just be there trying to connect the dots of things that he is seeing as he's going through his life. I was totally engaged in this book. I loved every single moment of the book. It was just a home run and knockout. This was my absolute favorite book.
Yeah.
Wow.
If I had
TKO, if you will.
Yeah, the knockout.
Yes, it was.
If I hadn't read all of Sara to like really like live in it, this would have been my favorite.
Wow.
Like there are three across all of these. There are three that are just dynamite, and that was Sentient, Sara, and this for me. Like
I felt like a weird duality about this book. I found the characters like very engaging and very, very interesting, each in their own right, and real, which was cool. I also found it a bit of a struggle to get through, not because of like the tone of the story or anything, just for whatever reason, maybe partially the art, which I liked, but still was like maybe a bit of a hang up. I love a noir story, I love that kind of thing. So it could shape into a book that I really enjoyed. This first issue, I was like back and forth about stuff I really liked, stuff that I didn't really get into. But I just happened upon this one with them riding bicycles. No main character in the story, but it's just really coolly illustrated. I think the lights, on the wheels, they're supposed to be lit up.
Yeah,
cool. It's a cool thing. The way that they hang out in the RV and they're in a bunch of different spots, That was very cool. And it's this guy's life, you know, which you really get the flavor of this gentleman's life. You know what I mean?
Or like a main problem for him too is that the fact that he hasn't shit in like 3 days.
Yeah,
right.
There's
And he's
these
turning
weird
down food that then later, you know, his other source of food is a dumpster, you know, but it's this complicated existence. And yeah, the guy, you're going the wrong way. That was a delight of a character. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're nice to each other too, which is cool. You know, like they look out for each other and they care about each other. And you know, and he cares about this girl that, you know, he wants to find out. And an intriguing mystery. Why are these things? You know, why does he have a nickname for a guy who looks like, you know?
Yeah, you've got a black gay kid who was seen with this girl who was dating a white supremacist with an attack dog, and they all seem to be friends, even though none of them should be linked in a social circle, and why that all is. And it's just, I like this book a shit ton. Like a lot.
I'm glad everyone enjoyed it more than I did. I found it a little bit of a struggle to get through. So I'm glad everyone is really enjoying it.
We're glad you're glad.
I feel bad. You know, this guy this family is letting him, our main character, kind of sleep in the alleyway next to their house.
Yeah.
And he just takes a big shit.
He does.
Well, I mean,
it's been coming.
Yeah.
He needed it.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate. Just curious about that situation there.
Yeah.
He cleans it up.
Right. Yeah, maybe he cleans it up himself.
This was another book that I'm glad you pointed out, B, about like the lights in the spokes of the bicycle. I thought that this book, as opposed to some of the other books, particularly the Banks, and it's not that I don't mean to like, I'm not taking a dump on the Banks or anything like that.
You like the Banks, right?
Because I did like it. I liked them all. I did. But it's like this book, the coloring helps set the tone. It helps sets the tone from daylight to dusk to evening, you know, whereas in the Banks, it's another one where I think the coloring could have played more of a part in separating, if nothing else, just the time periods that you were in. You know what I mean? So
I'm really glad you brought that up, Len. The coloring is really nice.
Yeah.
Oh, it's gorgeous. You know, honestly, I didn't even think about it because it was so naturalistic and didn't pull me out of the story in the way that some coloring does. This is actually really great coloring. I love this.
Okay, Holden says hello. Hello, Kay.
Hey.
Oh, that's my mom.
Hey, hello.
Hi, Mom. She's our one watcher right now, it looks like. Let's move on to the next book, which is called The Seven Deadly Sins. And this is a Western. And let's see, by Zhe Chun and Artyom Trakhanov. Artyom Trakhanov. 1867, the Wild West. A kidnapped child, a fallen priest, a deadly crew of death row criminals led by an African-American outlaw who embark on a bloody quest for redemption and revenge to gain what they've searched for their entire lives. Freedom! This is the first book that I read from TKO, and I read this quite a while ago. And I think I'm friends with the artist on Facebook or something, and that's what sort of grabbed my attention, Artyom. I have no idea how to say that name, Trakhanov, but the art in this book is the MVP. I really love the artwork in this. And it's a pretty fun Western. If you like a Western story, which I sometimes do, this is a fun one. I really enjoyed this. And again, the art really, really helped. I think the art is just top notch. I love it. It's sort of cartoony without being overly so. And it's really well crafted. What did you guys think?
I think that the art itself, the artwork, the artist is good. I think the art is very well done. I think his storytelling is very distracting and not clear. And that really made this a hard read for me. I don't think. Yeah, there are some pages where the dialogue is leading you one way and the art is taking you totally someplace else. Something will be in the foreground, yet you're really referencing something deep in the background. I found the art good stylistically. It felt like a dirty, gritty Western, but just the storytelling of it was just too hard to follow. And ultimately that just left me on the end of not really enjoying the book. And I wanted to, because I'm a sucker for a good Western, but that artwork was just taking me out of it. And and this was my least favorite book. It's a good book. I'm not going to say this is not a good book. And maybe if I read it together as a whole, it might read a little bit better because maybe the storytelling improves. But in the first issue, it was hard for me to follow, and it looked like you might have been agreeing with me on that.
I was hardcore agreeing with you, Len, and I'm glad that you segued into that because I had not named it, in my head, but I think I totally agree. The art individually, as in any individual piece, is good. I found it hard to track this story, and some of that, may have been the writing as well, but I found the world intriguing, the cast of characters intriguing.
Mm-hmm.
I found myself wondering what the intro part has to do with anything else. Presumably, we will find that out. But it would be weird if they just had that intro and then never touched on that at all. Yeah, I found the art a little jarring to read as a story art. Like I like each page and each panel. It's a weird but a very interesting choice to have this guy's face on the back of his coat in it looks cool. It looks a little out of place. I'm not sure if he has that picture on his coat, given the set.
Well, I thought that it was supposed to be like, using the coat to be like a part of a caption.
It's a transition choice. Like it's not the coat.
Yeah, but the transition didn't work for me.
Yeah, there's a lot of style over substance.
Yeah, and
I thought it was pretty obvious. We're doing a movie transition of an overlay of you've got this guy walking away, but then within the confines of his coat, we are starting to see the next scene take place, start to form. And I thought it was really cool.
It's a really cool idea once you guys spell it out for me like that. It's great. And I love an artistic attempt. You know what I mean? Didn't land for me, but cool ideas are cool to put out into the world. You know what I mean? So overall, there are pluses and minuses to this book. The character.
You know what would help it? I'm sorry to interrupt you, Brian. I think what might have helped this particular transition is we see his face on the back of the coat, and then the next panel is that same the same face. Maybe you just move the mouth a little bit so that you see that it's in the middle of talking and saying a different word than he is. But because the transition from here to that next upper panel is a completely different visual, I don't think your brain's able to track it quite as well as it could have otherwise.
Something like that versus how they break the panel in something like this, where the main character is kind of breaking. I can't really see it on the screen.
Yeah.
Either way, it's page on the digital reader. It's page 35. He breaks through the foreground, the panels themselves over the borders, and the coloring kind of changes. So that's style to show you how forceful he is in that moment with blood dripping from his hands.
Yes, yeah.
So that helps the story where there's some choices that are made that are almost kind of a hindrance to tracking what's going on. I liked this ultimately, but for me, it was the hardest one to get through.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
The art. I gotta say, the art was so engaging and so different at different points.
I loved the character designs. They were awesome.
Yes.
I loved specific scenes, but I had to go back and start a couple times, just to. It didn't keep me as much. This one and one that's coming up, I think, were the weakest first issues, but in comparison, like the Fang, in comparison to this and Fang, that one was much more polished in its kind of like wild art style. So it was easier for me to just kind of like roll with, as opposed to this was a little bit more challenging, which is not technically a bad thing. It's just.
I love it. I love it so much. Look at this panel. Hold on.
I mean,
yeah, that's it. That's
Look
the
at that
thing.
panel.
It's
That's
great.
the thing. You're looking at a panel, but we're talking about the book as a whole.
Yeah. Look, the crash of the
like the wagon that they were all
showing them inside of it, the juxtaposed with the actual, that's fantastic. But the page before and the page after, it's less of a connection. It's like a bunch of fantastic splash pages squeezed into panels. Like,
also,
and it's so jumbled.
We're talking about lettering. The artist has drawn in the word crash there as part of the layout, which I always love. I love when an artist just writes it in there.
Or in movies where like some text on screen is like in perspective with things or part of things. It's cool.
Specifically, I think of Scott Pilgrim, where the sound effect comes up and then the person gets punched through that sound effect and the sound effect shatters like glass.
It is cool.
So good. Well, I mean, I get it. It is an acquired taste. I don't think. I mean, I get why you guys might not like the artwork, but
nobody said they didn't like the artwork. Actually, everyone says they really like the artwork.
We're very clear.
All right, so you say, you know what I'm trying to say, so you say it so that you understand what I'm trying to say.
No. It's not that like you're saying we don't like the artwork. It's how it's being told in this story.
Giant problem with this book is the artwork.
No, our giant problem in the book is not the artwork; it's the storytelling of the art,
which is the artwork.
Which is no, it's not. No, it's not.
The writing the writing was like a little hard to track. But yes, JD, the sequentiality of the artwork, which is intrinsic to the artwork in this medium, was our problem with the thing.
Thank you.
It's just the way that it was.
We're playing word games, but you know what I'm saying.
I do know what you're saying, and the only reason why I wanted to try and correct poorly is because it sounds like we're shitting on the artist.
Oh no.
But just saying we have a problem with the artwork sounds like we're shitting on the artist, and we're not.
Yeah, so we are correcting you, JD.
I noticed. I noticed. What?
I put my finger up in an accusatory way earlier when I.
I lost my. My favorite bit here, though. I do like a badass moment, and so earlier in the book, a gentleman has grabbed this woman's breast and was like talking about. I guess milking her. And so later on when she is freed and he is at her mercy, she cuts off his hand and she says, "What did you say earlier? You wanted to milk me? Milk me now, motherfucker." And she like cuts off his hand.
Yo, I bet I kind of thought you were going to talk about when the Asian surgeon dislocates his thumbs to get him out of the thing.
That was my favorite part.
Oh yeah.
That dude's going to be a real quiet badass. I think he's going to be like, the ultra competent, like knowledgeable badass guy. Yeah. But
I think the characters in here are a lot of fun.
Yeah. The thing
a little broad. They're a little broad, but
the 7 deadly sins that are characters. Yeah.
Very broad.
It's a Western.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Everyone's an archetype, and they're supposed to be like that's the genre, right?
Yep. This is the Hateful Eight.
And then it looks like
this
is our last book.
The
I'm
Fearsome.
trying to bring it up. Here we go. It's going great.
Here it is.
Show in stream. There we go. All right, so the Fearsome Dr. Fang is the last book that we're going to be discussing today. Mike Weiss, Se Chun, and Dan McDade. Se Chun also, who was one of the writer of the 7 Deadly Sins just now.
Oh.
In this globe-trotting adventure, a street cop and a treasure hunter pursue dashing Chinese criminal mastermind, the Fearsome Dr. Fang. But when they discover Fang is working undercover, our trio must join forces to stop evil from awakening an ancient power. Look at that cover.
Cool cover.
Oh
Cool
my
cover.
God.
Yeah, that's
That cover-
issue 5.
That's not the one that I have, but yeah.
Oh,
That's issue
4.
number 5.
No, number 4.
All of the covers are great.
Yeah,
I'm holding it up, but you can't see it because I'm not visual right now.
No,
But this one feels the most like silver or gold, not even, is it Silver Age or even
Golden
earlier?
Age? Golden Age.
Golden Age.
Like pulp novel age, you know?
Yeah. Golden Age pulp novel adventure work.
Yeah.
And God damn it, I love the art in this one as well. I'm curious to see what you guys thought. I thought this was a bucket of fun. It's very much an old-timey adventure. It's, again, very broad. Parts of it felt pretty racist because I think that is the time period it exists in.
Sure.
Not, it's one of those things where the racism is a fault of the characters, not of the creator of the comic book, which I think is an important distinction.
Seven Deadly Sins was
what did you guys think?
I thought it was great. Seven Deadly Sins, I think, was the same. It was the world that it was in. It sucks, but that's the world that it inhabits. And it's a choice. I thought it was great. While I was reading it, I think this was my favorite book. Part of that is it's cool. So grandiose, melodramatic, really. Part of the reason why I liked it so much was the world that, like the pulp novel kind of story that it was. But it was also a really well-told pulp novel story with cool, splashy kind of action and very cool twists. The idea that I wondered if there was a little time travel element with they think they're chasing down Dr. Fang, and he's like, you, the brother, have to die now, and I kind of wondered if he was from the future. I'm thinking no. I think he predicted that. But the idea of this shadowy villain that isn't the guy that they're chasing, he's a good guy.
Or at least an anti-hero of some sort.
Yeah. He's working for the good, in some way, and turns certain things on its head, but also classic like mystery intrigue of who is the guy that seemingly killed the brother. Who is the guy that they thought was Dr. Fang? Is there a Dr. Fang, or is it all just mystery and myth? And then the twist at the end, with the brother. Another layer of mystery. The female thief, classic character, interesting character. I had a lot of fun. Part of that's because I like this genre, and part of that's because it's a great story.
Yeah, Len.
Hello. No, I enjoyed this book a lot. It was buckets of fun. These TKO books are they're speaking to me, man, because a really good, old-timey serial told with a little bit of a 21st century perspective can really wet my whistle.
Yeah, man.
So this was a lot of fun. The kind of twist with the whole title being the fearsome Dr. Fang, and yet he's not the Dr. Fang that you think he is. It's was real cool. The artwork was definitely took you back to the early days of Joe Simon or Jack Kirby back in those days. It was just a win. The old time look of the book. The coloring was definitely up to date, but still homaged, the more basic coloring of yesterday in the comic book, but it still made it feel like almost like a movie from the 30s and 40s. It was just a win. It was a win. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, go ahead. No.
I was just saying it's very warm. All the coloring is very warm.
Yeah.
The coloring is so lush and vibrant. I love it. And then, but then when certain things happen, everything shifts. When they do like a little flashback within the scene.
Yes, you can tell the difference. Yes,
it's all monochromatic.
Right.
The coloring in this is top notch. I love the art so much. The ink work is so just. Lush.
It's very rich. Yes.
And inky and chunky. I love the ink work, man.
Yeah.
And then the layouts, the page layouts. Did you guys find this hard to follow? Because
no. The artwork was good, and so was the storytelling. Everything was good in this book.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love the twist with the like mystical. You know, he does the earthquake, and then later he's like, there's no magic. I didn't make an earthquake. I predicted it.
Right.
I love that kind of sucker. You know, I love that kind of like that kind of twist where he seemed to be doing magic. Also got a real good goal. The secret treasure of Kubla Khan that's probably full of riches, but one really valuable thing, valuable beyond wealth, you know, kind of deal, I assume. But yeah, I like the like super scientist character with the earthquake deal.
No.
This book was great. I love the art. I actually, more than anything, the like if it was an order for me, it goes art, premise, and then the writing. Like in a weird way, the weakest thing was the script, but everything else just elevated it so much. I'm actually looking forward into digging into the second issue. Hopefully, like it just finds its footing past premise. I love this. This was so fun. I looked up, because I love the art so much, I looked up Dan McDade, and I guess currently he's doing IDW's Firefly.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I might go back and try and read that. I think it's Greg Pak and him.
Nice.
Yeah. So like
getting good guys to draw those Buffy books.
I know, like all of those. Well, just IDW in general. Well, that's Boom. Sorry. Right?
Oh.
Boom is Buffy.
Oh.
IDW is Firefly, I think.
I didn't realize they were different publishers. Nice.
So.
Okay, thank you.
Regardless, though, those like Whedonverse books are getting all these great artists like Dan Mora and Dan McDade and stuff. This like I'm gonna go back and try that too, because like I said, the art was just phenomenal. He captured genre, he captured tone, he captured excellent action. Like this was just awesome, and the acting was fantastic too.
Each one of these covers, I want to frame each one of them or get a poster of it. There's all the covers are so good.
Yeah.
Well, I just realized that issue 1 and issue 6 are mirrors of each other.
Yeah.
Oh, that is cool.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah. I always like this stuff happening in a silhouette thing, you know, like a silhouette of something else and there's action. Yeah.
Yeah, this was great. I'm going to read more of this for sure.
It's the most action-packed adventure. It heralds on the cover right here.
Do you guys want to rank these books?
Nah.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, like your level of enjoyment in that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate choosing. You know, I'm like, I like these too, but in different ways. But I'll go along with you guys.
Well, favorites, just straight up favorites, right? Who wants to go first? Anybody?
Let's do our top 3 each. How about that?
Top 3?
Top 3? Okay.
Top 3 each.
I'm down.
No, are you ready to go with it since you brought it up?
Sure.
Do it.
Sara, Sentient, and Goodnight. What? Wait, already lost.
Goodnight Paradise.
Yes, Goodnight Paradise.
That's a
those three stories and art combinations were just perfect. Like if I clung to the writing of Fearsome Fang a little bit more, it would have easily just rocketed all the way up.
I would say Goodnight Paradise is easily my favorite. I'm going to rank these like, you know, because I'm a trade guy. So which of these are the trades that I will definitely buy? And right now, sight unseen, it would be Goodnight Paradise. Sentient and the Banks.
Yeah, you know what? I want to read the rest of the Banks. I want to read the rest of Pound for Pound, and I want to read the rest of. Wait a minute! I forgot. I totally forgot about Pound for Pound. I'm sorry.
Let's list our top 8 of these.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Goodnight Paradise.
This is awful. They're all good.
Yeah, they are. Goodnight Paradise. Pound for Pound, the Banks. Those are the ones that I would buy right off the top.
Nice. And when you
you just dropped Sentient.
Don't forget to send them to my store.
Johnny Destructo's Hero Complex, Manayunk, Pennsylvania.
Right.
Well,
or,
I mean, you could do it in the
you might
drop
be able to sign up Amalgam with them as well, and maybe throw them a couple of bucks.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, if they're not in there already, let me see.
Yeah, I hope they are.
I'll check. You guys keep talking.
Brian.
All right. I am going to say the banks, if you guys recall. So, like, real surprise hit for me. Sentient, Fearsome Dr. Fang. Goodnight Paradise, very cool choice. Great title, great look, and I'd probably enjoy reading the rest of it. But yeah, those are I think those are my top three. You know, very enjoyable books.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think the only one of these that I'm not going to finish is Goodnight Paradise. That's probably the only one. If I'd probably read all the rest of these. But if you guys finish Goodnight Paradise and you're like, that shit was dope, I would go back and read it. I would finish it. But my top three are going to be Sentient at the top, then Sara by Garth Ennis, and then The Fearsome Dr. Fang.
In that order. Mine was not in order.
Yeah.
I just want to get that out there.
Mine was in order, yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah, Sentient is probably my favorite one. I had such I literally closed it and was like, oh shit. So that's a good way to end a book, I think. I had an oh shit moment and I was like, oh man, I can't wait to see where this goes.
I didn't see it coming. Yeah. I'll tell you.
Oh yeah. That's the thing. We are choosing between like good shit.
Yeah.
Let's say pizza instead of good shits.
Okay, good pizza. Because like all 8 of these books, I'll be honest. I'll put this out there. All 8 of these books are better than anything than we have read in the last month on Spoiler Alert. For me.
Okay, fair enough.
Oh, for you. Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
You weren't speaking for all of us. Oh, my bad.
I just checked real quick. And both Johnny Destructo's Hero Complex as well as Amalgam Comics and Coffee House are available to immediately pick in the checkout. So you go and shop on the website like normal. It's tkopresents.com. When you're in the checkout, you can just underneath the total, there's a drop down and by alphabetical order, you pick your comic shop.
Oh, that's cool. So you don't have to type it in. You don't have to.
It's free shipping over $30, I think, too. So you buy 2 trades, 50% of that goes to the shop of your choice.
That's very cool.
I just want to take 1 second and do. I want to clarify something. Normally, when we do the Spoiler Alert podcast, we're just talking about the books we read this week. We're not trying to push anything. We're not trying to get anyone to buy anything. But I'm aware that TKO is doing something really cool to help your local comic shops. And I don't want people to think that we're doing this just to get people to buy these books to help. I legitimately like most of these books. There's just something within me that was like, I hope people don't think we're just trying to sell TKO. Another publisher that's doing a similar thing, exactly the same thing, is Black Mass Studios. And they have a really a wide berth of or a wide selection of books to choose from. My favorites from them are We Can Never Go Home and 4 Kids Walk Into a Bank. So if you're looking for good books from another publisher, check them out as well. But yeah, I think any of these would be worth your money if you go to tkopresents.com and pick them, and they will send half of the money to your local comic shop, whatever one you pick.
JD, I mean, this is hard times. This is, and I think all of us appreciate when somebody does something awesome and nice. And that is what I think all of you guys are responding to about this TKO thing. I mean, you personally own a comic store, but I think you'd react the same way even if you didn't. And none of us do, and we do feel that way. You know, it's a great, really, really generous thing for them to do, and I think that deserves a lot of recognition. And we're giving it to them. And we like these books, as you said, you know. And if people like them and they buy them, it's a win-win-win-win-win situation. However many people.
Hey, if we're gonna do this legit, and first of all, we wouldn't have talked about all these books if we didn't think that we liked them all. Like it would have been a conversation beforehand of like, hey, let's not talk about 7 Deadly Sins. Let's not talk about Goodnight Paradise. But like we always try and be positive. If all of us shit on something, then it's just like, hey, let's save it for not the show. Yeah. But in regards to Black Mask, do you know how they were doing their thing? Because I just really quick went through like a cart situation, and I'm not sure how to name check a shop. Do you remember when you saw that?
Because I've already received like $10 or $20 from them, so someone did it. Cool. I thought it was like you at the end you can leave like notes and then just write the comic shop in the notes.
Okay.
Special. I'm not sure. I haven't done it.
Special instructions for seller, then you say?
Yes.
Probably. Yeah.
All right. Special instructions. Write the comic shop of your choice.
And
email.
I was gonna say like be detailed.
Yeah.
Like city and state, maybe.
Yeah.
At the very least.
Yeah, I think it was like name and email at store.
Manayunk, not a usual word. M-A-N-A-U.
It's Philadelphia. It's
it's Philadelphia. Okay.
Yeah, just put Philadelphia.
It's just Philadelphia. Manayunk is a subsection of Philadelphia.
It's a neighborhood.
Right.
Yeah. Don't buy into the hype. It's Philadelphia.
We're still Philadelphia. Even though Philadelphians don't like to call us Philly, we pay the taxes. We're Philly.
Yeah.
No, we don't mind calling you Philly. We get tired of y'all if you want to only be called Manayunk.
No, it's just a neighborhood. It's a way to say like we're not as cool as you. Relax. Yeah.
You could just say that.
Yeah, but if people who live in South Philly say they live in South Philly.
Yeah, they're cool.
Yeah, but it's different. It's South Philly.
And they don't say South Philadelphia. They say South Philly.
Yeah.
That's true.
And they say it with a gun.
All right, guys. Do we have any ideas for next week since no new books are coming out? Are we just going to start doing book club or what?
We could do that. We could start doing book club. We could start talking about some comics, some comic or pop culture stuff if we want to.
Yeah.
I know that.
Do you want to do a mishmash of book club and old-fashioned gutter talk?
Sure.
We could do something like that. We could figure out exactly. We could take suggestions.
We could do all of this offline.
That's true.
No.
Well, I thought
figure it out now.
Yeah. Well, we'll be back next week, probably next Sunday. If you want to join us live and comment with us and hang out, that would be awesome. We would love to see you and chat with you. Thank you so much for everyone joining us. You can help the show out if you go to patreon.com/JohnnyDestructo. You can email us at cultpopgo@gmail.com. And please like and review and share and all the bullshit that you do with the media stuff. Do every single thing. And then, Brian, where can the people find you?
My name is Brian Lieb. It's on the bottom of the screen. We're not audio only. Lieb. People still get it wrong a lot. I'm at brianliebdesign.com. I'm at brianlieb.com. They're the same website. And, draw me a line.
Okay. No.
Most people can find me sheltering in place in my home.
What's the address there, Noel?
It is 4438-995-62.
Stop it.
It's JD's Hero Complex.
Yeah. Well, also, they can find us. Generally, we try to do Thunder Rounds on YouTube every Wednesday morning.
Yes, yeah. So we're because of our current situation, and also too just because we should have been doing it all along. We're trying to do more. We're trying to just provide more content, more conversation, because we can't do it in shops anymore. So let's try and do it online. We're trying to do book clubs. We're trying to do more Thunder Rounds. So you can find us all on these channels, live on Facebook, YouTube. You can at me at Mr. Bartocci, MRBARTOCCI on Twitter. And we'll go from there.
All right, Len.
Hey, holla at the Bat Tribble. You can find me every place that you find Black Tribbles. On Facebook, we have our Facebook group, Tribble Nation, where we get down, and we are doing more video hangouts. We've got an animated madness tournament going on. We did round 1 yesterday. I think we're going to do another round a little bit later today because I got to get something to eat. But any place you find Black Tribbles, you can find us. The first round of the Animated Madness will be going up in our podcast stream sometime today. And just holla at a Tribble. Holla on all social medias. Love you.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will talk at you later. Bye. Stop streaming. Yes.